Good evening and welcome to another edition of the Magpie Circle. Welcome, one and all. Mark Stallard is with me, giving the professional eyes view from the 1-0 defeat at Gillingham. They're the league leaders, or were the league leaders, have been the league leaders. Was that a blueprint for a side that is aspiring towards automatic promotion? Clearly, we fell a little bit short on Saturday. Some people say it was a little bit short. Some people will say it was a long way short. It was a 1-0 defeat. What are your thoughts and views, those of you who went down to the Priestfield Stadium? A loss of momentum, I think it's fair to say. I think we're all expecting a little bit more. At the minute, the adjective that seems to be used more often than not to describe our season so far, we've not quite got to the 10-game mark from which Stell says we should be judging them. Indeed, Martin Patterson said that. Mid-table. That seems to be the buzzword among the supporters at the moment. But if you're a kind of a glass half full person, are we overreacting a little bit to Saturday? One of the longest unbeaten runs in the Football League. We were in the game until the final minutes. Jody Jones caused a few problems. Yes, we might have nicked something. Or are you of a view you're worried? Playing identity. I think along with alignment, I think identity are the two buzzwords of Notts County's season so far. What do you think of our identity? Martin Patterson described it as a tweak a week or two ago. Mark said on last week's show it's more than a tweak, and it kind of seems to be moving with each passing week a little bit further away from that, if you like, possession at all costs philosophy. What are your thoughts on that? Now we're going a bit more direct. Do you want more possession-based football coming back in? Still waiting for news on Kellen Gordon. Stretch it off. Posted something on social media. Got a boot on his foot. I assume they're waiting for the swelling to go down before they can have more detailed x-rays on that injury. Stel, welcome aboard. Yes. We'll read everybody's comments out in a minute, which will take a little while. As the professional, we are but civilians. Where are you? Mid-table? Are you disappointed with us so far? Room for improvement? Departure of playing style? Roberto Gagliardi's moved on since you were last on. I feel among the supporter base on Saturday, everyone's feeling very flat, I think, at the minute. Hard to build up much optimism.
Yeah, well, evening, Paul. Evening, everyone. Yes, I think you're right. I think that's the bit, and you sort of don't want to overreact to one defeat now. We had 3 wins out of 4 before it. But as we were saying during the defeats, and again, we weren't playing brilliant. We've still not done this 90-minute performance, if you like. We weren't playing brilliantly, but we were getting the job done. And I think I was saying last week, I explained that to somebody who'd got no skin in the game with Notts. And so that's a sign of a good team, isn't it? And you go, yeah, when you're not playing well and you're winning games, that is the sign of a good team. Saturday, unfortunately, was a team not playing well and losing a game. And yes, you can go, yeah, it was a team at the top of the table that had a good start, unbeaten so far, Gillingham. And they proved to be a very solid team, decent team, but didn't turn up. And again, the conditions weren't great. So I might say that at the top of the programme, but it's always the same for both teams. Now, I think in the run where we got the wins, we've been workmanlike in large spells, but we got over the line. Saturday we were workmanlike. Certainly no question about the efforts, but quality was way off. And I think Martin in his post-match was angry. He said it himself. He was angry, but it's as frustrated as I've seen him. And you can understand why. And all those hundreds of fans that travelled all that way, you can understand the disappointment, because it was a terrible performance, terrible spectacle. We barely threatened. And for a team that had took 10 points out of the last 12, that was the big disappointment. So all in all, I think at this moment, you have to say, yeah, you do feel a little bit flat. You feel like, okay, that mini run has come to a shuddering halt. Got to start again, of course, but you're not seeing too much signs on Saturday. There was certainly not much to take from it in terms of positives. I say effort, commitment, work rate, all that was there, but nothing really to take too much positive out of it and into the next game. So the run comes to a halt, the mini run comes to a halt, and they've got to get themselves going and got to perform better, got to look more dangerous, got to have more cohesion about them, I think, at times, So again, looking for a response.
Okay, here's the response from the flock. There's quite a bit of it. Richard Terry, first on the chat. Possibly everyone's had enough of the dross this season already, he says. Would sooner watch a Stuart Maynard team. At least you knew what to expect. Does this coach know what to do? Clearly, Richard is not a happy bunny, and nor, I suspect, is Ian Cooksey. The club seems to be in decline. The feel-good factor in 2023 has faded fast. People voting with their feet is the biggest nudge to the owners that the fans are not happy. The football is boring. The lack of investment in a quality manager and playing squad sends out the wrong message. 5 loanees, a goalkeeper with no league experience, and 2 players brought in on 1-year contracts speaks volumes. If there is a reset button in football, then it needs pressing, and quickly, because the apparent lack of ambition at Notts speaks volumes. A promotion-winning manager should have been brought in. Evening all from Bud Chatwin. Let's be positive. We are 6 points off relegation and only 2 points off the playoffs. Colin Metcalf. First season back, we didn't sort our defence out in January. Last season was a golden chance, and a dismal January window cost us. This season is a prime example of why you need to take chances when they are there. Here's a stat, Stell. You'll like this one. Ian Cooksey. 8 of the 11 clubs ahead of Notts tonight have managers with a combined 19 promotions amongst them. What makes the brothers think that a relative novice with only 20 managerial games under his belt would work? I have no reason to believe it's not true. Great stat, Ian. I don't know how long it's taken you to work that one out, but very good. Gazali, evening flock. Only making one comment tonight. The defeat on Saturday made me no worse. Recent wins papered over the cracks. We have hardly any players with any value and endless weak loans. I'm not happy. Richard Elvian, if Dennis is out Saturday, we will struggle. Colin Metcalf, it's my 61st birthday. You're a year behind me, Colin. So hope you've got the balloon gestures sorted. Seen it all at Notts in my time, but have to say this season has a weird feeling to it. Yeah, it was. We did my Sunday supplement yesterday, Stal. We're trying to get the balloons, and I couldn't get them, but I've looked it up. Now, this should get balloons for Colin and for Adi yesterday. V sign that way? No. That's supposed to do it. Obviously, everything's gone wrong. We can't even get the balloons and the fireworks anymore. Right, I'll keep going. Richard Elvian, Jody left wing back, Rob Owen for Norburn, Traore with AJ, Ness in for Sonny. Grant as a 10, please. Jonathan Hammocks. I get the feeling when we win, it's progress made. When we lose, it's the end of the world. It's about right, Jonathan. It's about right. This is football. We all get emotional. Evening all from Royston. We're all depressed. That's it. That's my comment. Jonathan comes back. I completely agree. We have lost an identity. And as much as I like Pato's honesty, I think he's responsible for the style of play now. We seem a long way off a playoff team. Love the extra content, Paul, especially the Sunday supplement. And it's great when Stell joined you on a Monday night. Highlights of my week. Keep it up, lads. A happy customer. As Basil Fawlty said, we should have him stuffed. Ray Newton, evening. Paul Cuthbert. Our right side is very weak. Al Joffrey out of his depth. Cotter a poor addition. Gordon unfortunately injured. Get JJ on the left. Sarula on the right. AJ and Dennis will work. Why take Iapenda off? Richard Terry just listened again to Martin Patterson's post-match comments. Confusing question mark. Maybe he's a great coach, but not communicating at the moment. Evening from Stephen Newton. Paul Cuthbert. Strange decisions. Macari should be in unless he's banned. I don't believe he's banned because he's been on the bench. So Saturday was aimless, shapeless, and generally poor. We are better than that. Let's prove it Saturday. Martin Patterson sounds totally fed up. Evening to Jurgen. What's with these buzzwords, e.g. alignment and identity? Football is a simple game. No need to make it over complicated. I don't disagree, Jurgen. Ray Newton. Need to put the ball into the opponent's box more instead of playing tippy-tappy at the back. Tim Watchorn. Take good old-fashioned goal kicks. Stop this fiddling about in the area. It invites trouble. Jurgen adds Ness needs to come in. Evening from PJ Defiance and from John Parr. Ray Newton. Send Cotter out on loan until his contract is up at Notts and then release him. Not a good signing in my opinion. Yeah, as Murray Biddle points out, Ray, we've actually got him on loan already, so I'm not sure we could do that. PJ Defiance. I really can't see the brothers buying any more players in the January window. I think it will be loan players again. Evening from Adi. Sorry, mate, couldn't find the fireworks, balloons, or the confetti. I trust the family got loads of it for you. Jurgen Halligan. Wonder if Jones will switch wings to Gordon's position. Evening from John Gregory. Macari in for El Joffrey, says Murray Biddle. Rob Simmons. I said last week that Gillingham would be a true indicator of where Notts stand. Well, the result is in, and at present we are no better than mid-table. Evening from Mark Williams. Gary O'Connor. I said give Martin Patterson 10 games. Not quite there yet, but it's a no from me. It can change, of course, says Rob Simmons, but for some entertainment and excitement. Lippy Jane. I was thinking, do you all think there are playing time strings attached to the loan players? In many cases, there are, Lippy. Sometimes it's linked to, if you don't play them, you pay a higher percentage of their wages. Sometimes how the bigger clubs structure these deals now. Macari not physical enough for me, says Jurgen Halligan. Senga Schmidt. Jatta was poor. For a big bloke, wins nothing. Evening from Newark, says Adam Kent. One shot on target Saturday. Sums up a poor performance. John Parr thinks Saturday showed where Notts are. That's what Martin is angry about. Ray Newton. More attacking would help. But Chatwin, the highlights package was 2 minutes and 9 seconds. Says it all. Joe Crabtree. Reloans. I think clubs end up playing the host club more if they don't play rather than the promise of minutes. Correct. Not always, but that is a option, the way that the clubs can load it to maximise minute. Forget identity, says Steve Goldard. Just win any way you can. Evening from Elvis Spot. Wayne Wilkins. We moaned with an identity and we moan without. I'm balanced generally, and it was disappointing Saturday. However, we weren't outplayed really, but for one bit of quality, it was pretty even. Right, well, we've still got a ton more, as you can see, Stel. You don't win. we are a lot more vociferous. You kind of get the gist there. There aren't too many positives there. Are we overreacting? Beat Crawley and everything's all right again, or not?
Well, look, there's a tendency to overreact after any result, isn't it? Win or lose, you win a couple of games and suddenly everyone think, right, promotion, here we come, and you lose a game suddenly, and then now it's, well, we're the worst. Do we need to change everything? And the players aren't good enough. But whoever said, there wasn't a lot of positives there, and we are getting towards that sort of 10-game mark. We are getting
Yeah,
a better idea, aren't we? The more, for want of these buzzwords, for more data that we have, and all data is information of what's been, history, if you like. We've had 8 games, we've won 3, we've lost 3, and we've drawn a couple. And aside from the Shrewsbury game, and I'm talking league only here, every other game has not had more than a goal in it. So we're not getting battered, and we're not really battering teams. We are competitive. We are, in the mix. But it is interesting, this word identity, and again the sort of talking about what somebody said that they were boring football, and we've got no identity. Last season we were moaning about the boring football, but it was different, possession based football, a different identity. So look, the fact of the matter is, when you lose, we're not happy. None of us are. You can't look at it with a performance like Saturday's was and go, well, that gives us loads of encouragement for the future. As I say, the battling qualities, the workmanlike, the work ethic, and all that sort of thing, that's there. There's no question about that. I think for me, the quality is missing at the minute, certainly in the final third. Defensive lapses, it is another concern. And, we are looking for, say, Martin said it was a tweak. I said last week, I think it's more than a tweak. Well, I would certainly describe it as more than a tweak of how we're playing. And I just wonder whether the players are absolutely clear on what is being asked of them, because at times it looks like they're not. There's times when, there's you're always going to get it. There's players on different wavelengths. Somebody's showing short, the ball goes in behind. That can happen. But I'm seeing things now. Martin's getting frustrated at us playing in the wrong areas. You mentioned last week, wasn't he, about who was it? Was it Fleetwood putting the ball in, making us defend? Defend the line, as he calls it. But putting the ball in the box, and whoever it was that mentioned about putting the ball in the box, I think Martin wants us to do that. The problem is we've got to have enough quality at retaining the ball in the opposition half, which I don't think we did. I thought Josh Andrews was excellent on Saturday. I know he scored the goal, but I was, commending him before that, because in what was a scrappy game, he, made our defenders work hard. Looked like he was a problem, whereas we played with 2 up front with Jatta and Dennis, and in all honesty, didn't really cause their back 3 a problem. So, sorry, back 4 a problem. So, frustrating from that respect. But again, that's down to abilities. You've got to work hard, yes, but you've got to have quality. You've got to affect the game, and Notts didn't really spend enough time inside the Gillingham half, really, to put any sustained pressure on them and ask them any questions. So, like I say, Jody's one shot after he came on late in the second half, a dribbled effort the keeper got down, was the only effort on target in the game, and that sort of sums it up a little bit for me, for Notts, that we are looking like a team that I wouldn't say disjointed, but a team that is betwixt and between of how they're going to play. And Martin mentioned about maybe the possession based way that they've been playing over recent years. He's got to change that mentality of when to play possession and when to, for want of a better word, get rid, not take chances, de-risk the game, turn teams around. So Gillingham weren't afraid to do that, weren't afraid to turn us round, but also they play football when they get chance. Like I say, there wasn't loads in the game, let's not be honest, but I can't make a case to say that we deserved anything out of it. I think Gillingham obviously got the goal. I think they had the couple of other better opportunities in the game as well, and were just generally a little bit better all over. So deserve 3 points for them. Notts have got to find a response, because I say they just look to me as if they're not quite sure of what's wanted from them. And then you go on to the qualities of the individuals. Are we any better than we were in terms of the individuals in certain areas or all over the pitch than we were last season? And I think that is still up for debate.
More from the flock. Derek Flowers. Gillingham wasn't all that good. Gillingham weren't all that good. Otherwise, they would have spanked us. Ruse saves could be counted on a hand with 3 fingers. And for their keeper, 1 finger, I think. Dale Pikett, not sport their most creative player on down the left, and most of the attacks went down the right. Sums Saturday up, really. Right, we'll have one final go at getting the balloons and whatever else. Wayne Wilkins, who's our StreamYard technician, the peace sign with 1 hand. Hold it steady for 5 seconds or so. Balloons will appear. Right, AD, who else? Mr. Metcalf. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Are you sure? Are you sure he's not pulling
Wayne,
your chain,
you've sold me a puppet. I look like a right here, don't I? Anyway,
you are gullible.
Forget it. Peter Minkley, I am depressed. I was when Masson and Brad left, but I'm still coming on Saturday. Double thumbs up for the same time frame. Well, it won't work, will it? Obviously. Some's not and the magpie circle up at the minute, don't it? Right, what else we got? Nathan Chambers. We look okay for mid-table. Hopefully lessons to be learned from recent decision making. Then we can have a go next season. Hina 70. Well, I'm still looking towards Saturday anyway. Stell is right. We need a response, and I expect one. Richard Montague says Matthew Taylor leaving Swansea. Just as we have a DOF vacancy, it's 2 + 2 = 5. Ian Cooksey, we just don't seem capable of beating the better teams. We'll come on to that in a moment. We mentioned that last week, Ian. Until that is eradicated, we won't go anywhere. Another defeat against a promotion-chasing team, echoes Martin Blaney. A positive, says Colin Metcalf. If we get in the playoffs, I think we're more equipped to stay in the games. Unfortunately, over 46 games in the regular season, I can't see us making them at the moment. Richard Elvian, last time we had a short corner. Well, I'm sure as and when we did, we probably moaned about it. But anyway, Greza Maxwell, Greza, just like a Scott Robertson tackle, I'm late. As I said on the Sunday supplement yesterday, we were outmanaged by a more experienced manager. If Pato goes, the brothers need to break the bank to get in an oven-ready League 2 manager. Bear Nuttall, not Bear Grylls, up the gills. Hey, I said to you, I was very impressed. By far the best. I think they were better. I think you were a better team than Salford. Organised for me. I think take Stell's point. You started very well in previous seasons. Will you last the distance? On that performance, you looked certainly like you are capable of being in the automatics. Great tackle by Robbo in the dying seconds, says Richard Elvian, preventing a good attempt on goal. It was an incredible. I don't know where he came from. Yeah. ZO, evening appears we and the players not enjoying the season so far. We lack energy and quality. Got rid of that over the summer. Kedwin's dad, Colin Scott. I think Kedwin's doing fine with South Shields. Only 8 games, early days, he said. Richard Elvian, let Stell do the V sign. Ian, see, how's your lad doing? I hope he's happy and enjoying his football again. Give him all our best. And of course, we all echo that. Since you were last with us, Stell, certainly wouldn't have won any popularity contests. Not that that's an essential anyway. Roberto Gagliardi left. There's a vacancy. Richard Montague, 24 hours after that, leaves Swansea. David Weir then left Brighton as technical director. And the way you read these statements, they all got pushed rather than they've left because they've got a better job lined up. Director of football, I mean, thoughts on Roberto or thoughts on the decision for him to move on? EFL League 2, EFL League 1. Do we need them at this level or not?
Look, there is no perfect setup. Somebody's got to bring the recruitment in, somebody's got to identify players, and somebody's got to sign players and put them on contracts. Whether that's one person who you are assigned to do all of it with a team underneath them, or whether you assign multiple heads of departments, if you like, and have a technical board, there is no one way that works. So, not too worried about that. The fact that Roberto's gone, let's say we don't know the absolute reasons. We don't know what's gone on behind closed doors. We don't know, speculation if it's the case of they are underwhelmed and not happy with the recruitment, obviously, how the dynamic was working, or whether they, just felt it was time for a change, or Roberto felt it was time for a change. We just don't know what goes on behind the scenes. So, time will tell, but I'm pretty sure they'll bring in a replacement.
Yeah,
I think the timing was, as soon as possible. I think it's, if they think it's wrong, if they think that the fit is wrong, then you make a decision as soon as possible. There's no point sort of delaying it, and there's no point, just kicking the can down the road. You have to be decisive, and that decision's been made, whichever way it was taken. I know mutual consent is always the way these things happen, but it's not always 50-50 mutual. I know that with most decisions.
absolutely. Yeah.
So look, it is what it is, and I think Roberto was getting a fair bit of flack from the fans, wasn't he? Because it was or looks at this minute, a particularly underwhelming transfer window. Not just the players that have come in, but the players that have gone. But we shall see what happens now. Richard Montague, you're right, went, and so we put two and two together, but doesn't necessarily mean he's going to come back. So it is interesting, but as we sit here now, regardless of what may or may not have gone on behind the scenes, the reason for the decision, I still say I look at the players that have been recruited in the summer, and from what I've seen on the football pitch in the 10 games we've had, 8 league plus a couple of cup games, I've still got massive question marks that we're any better than we were last season in terms of the individuals. In fact, I would argue at the minute we're probably worse. We're not as good. But that can change, as we rightly say. Every game is a chance to change that, But at the minute, I think there's a certain element of frustration. You feel it from Martin over the last few weeks of his interviews, of what he's been saying, and now he's back to I've been staying my lane. I know what my lane is, sort of thing. So again, maybe there's been words behind the scenes, which is fine, which is absolutely fine and right. So I think there's frustration that nobody's daft behind the scenes. This isn't where we wanted to be. This isn't the start to the season that we wanted, and the signs of performances have not been where they want to be. They've got all the data. They've got more data than we've got. They're watching the games, and they've got all the data as well. More data than we could even dream of seeing. They'll know this has been a disappointing start in the whole than what was envisaged. And as a result of that, Roberto Gagliardi's gone, and somebody else will come in. But like I say, that's a side factor. We have now got to get on with it. The players have got to get on with it. Martin and the coaching staff have got to get on with it and make a decent fist of it between now and January. And then by the time January comes, who knows who'll be director of football. But then it's about where you are as to, I'm sure, for the brothers to make a decision about what recruitment, if any, takes place, or certainly changeover of personnel in the playing staff, what happens in January, where you are, what you're likely to achieve, what are we looking for? So, look, it's not been ideal. It's not been perfect, certainly. It's not a disaster, but it's not been where we wanted to be. So, have we built on last season? I would say no. I think we've took a bit of a step backwards at the minute, but that can change.
Ian Cooksey asking Colin how his lad Kedwin is doing. I hope he's happy and enjoying his football again. Never give up, says Steve Geldard. Look at Doncaster a year ago and then 7 wins on the bounce. Is the setup, asks Donny Pye at the club, putting off experienced managers? AD Clark, no balloons or confetti. Ruined me birthday, Paul. A happy birthday from Stell will make up for it. Happy birthday, AD Clarksdale.
Happy birthday, AD. Have a good one. Without the balloons, you don't need balloons. You don't need him sitting here like an idiot with his V signs up for 5 seconds. That's for sure. Have a good day, pal.
Colin Scott. Kedwin is scoring goals, top of the league. So happy. Greza Maxwell. Mid-table form here. Colin, glad your lad is doing well. Colin Metcalf, never mind the balloons for my birthday. I'll do my usual thing. Start the week depressed, build my optimism up in the week, and convince myself we're going to win. Then I will have my balloon popped on Saturday. Very good, very good. Michael Fido asks about the departure of Austin. Why did we get rid? Hardworking grafter. There was some debate about the timing. It is actually quite right. Martin Patterson didn't get rid of Austin. He'd gone by the time Martin arrived. Evening from John Parnham. Sorry I'm late. Just finished a Zoom call with my writers group. He's a bit of a thespian, is John. What have I missed? Well, I'm sure you've caught up pretty quickly. Lippy Jane, Kedwin doing very well. Keep seeing photos of him celebrating goals with his teammates. Colin Metcalf, am I correct in thinking we've signed a total of 11 new players this season? I think 11 is the figure. That obviously includes loans. Lippy Jane, stay in my lane is an awful phrase, especially used on himself. Surely you should be aiming for the stars. What else have we got? Scott Taylor, bit of a step backwards still, question mark. More like a leap backwards, make. John Parnham, it's not right to make a blanket judgment yet. If we win the next 2 games, it'll all be smiles again. That was actually the subject of one of our debates. We were saying, John, we live from game to game in football. You lose, woe is me. You win, playoffs and all the rest of it. AD says top man Stell for his birthday wishes. Carl Brandon, I'm 18 minutes behind the live, but I want to point out that the style of play under Maynard wasn't working either. Might as well finish 22nd than finish in the playoffs and falter. Ian Cooksey, he's a glass empty man. What about if we lose the next 2? ZO, suspect the owners not happy with how the budget was spent by Roberto. Hence, he was pushed. How long will Martin Patterson be given? As even with a poorer squad, little sign of attractive, effective football. I think that is. I think Cole mentions that. We rightly so. Over 46 games, we finished in the playoffs, but we were tailing away quite badly last season. Still, we were tailing away badly. Sometimes people will say the way you end a season can often influence how you start the following season, and I think this kind of ties in to the point we were talking about, a loss of momentum. And you've made this point before. In the National League, we were almost spoiled. You know, we can do 20 keepy uppies, 176 tippy tappies in our own 6-yard box. Clubs aren't as fit as us, don't have as good players. Ole, all that. We win 5-0, win 6-0. We kind of kidded ourselves in a way that, half these teams would be good enough in EFL. But I think one of the things we found since we came back up, the 2 leagues are actually poles apart, because everyone in this division is competitive. Whatever you say, they're all competitive. What do we need to do now? Change, we talk about the change of identity, and you've said some of the players aren't necessarily quite sure. Stick or twist, keep the ball, pass the ball, getting caught in 2 minds. Do you think we need to go back a little bit and have more possession, or do you think we kind of need to move further along in being a more direct combative club along the lines of Gillingham and those sorts of things. And then my supplementary, when you've answered that, would be, but did we recruit to be a more combative team?
Right. So, look, the answer to it, and again, there's never a very simple answer, but the answer to it is, as long as everybody is on the same page and knows what is wanted, you know, in any level, I think I was saying while we were in the National League, like, just be careful, because there is no way, no doubt about it. League Two is better than the National League. It sounds obvious, but I think at times we did sort of kid ourselves on a little bit about the on any given match day, anybody can play above their level.
Yep.
But over a 46 game season, the National League is the National League for a reason. The clubs that are there for a reason. League Two, far more competitive from top to bottom. League One, more so, and so on and so forth. So, look, the level has gone up. So you need better players. There's no two ways about it. A coach without good players can only do so much. He can get them organized. He can get any set of players organized, give them a plan, tell them what to do. But you cannot make a player who can't do. You can't make him beat three men if that's not in his skill set. You can't make them do that. You can't make them pass the ball. You can't make them run quicker. You can put fitness into them, yes, but it's limited the amount of improvement you can get out of a player. But what a coach is there for is to set the tactics, set the framework, set the standards, of course, what's expected. But that's where recruitment comes into it. We need to recruit players who are good enough to play whatever system it is we're going to play. So, in answer to your question, do we need to be more possession based, or do we need to be more direct? I think you're saying
Yeah.
It doesn't matter, as long as, again, I'll come back to decision making, as long as players know what's expected, know the role, know what the coach wants from them, and the teammates alongside them all know what's happening and know what's expected. If everyone's on the same page, then we become a better team. Just by virtue, not become better individuals, but become a better team, because everyone's on the same page. Whether that's right, the ball gets out to the right back, we are putting it in the channel, we're turning them around, no ifs, no buts. And I'm saying no ifs, no buts. There's always an option in football. If they play five players stood in where you're going to pass the ball, you don't pass the ball there, obviously. But if we go, look, this is what we're looking to do. We're looking to get into these spaces. We'll turn them around if we're halfway inside our own half, and we'll get up the pitch and squeeze them in. Or we'll try and play through. If it's a team that's pressing, we'll try and play through the press, or we'll miss the press out. Whatever it is, whatever way you want to play, it needs to be absolutely clear. And all I would say is, what I've seen out of the sort of 10, well, no, I've seen 9 of them, but 9 of the games I've seen is, I'm not absolutely certain that the players look like they know what's expected of them, and that's in terms of the performance. I'm not saying they don't know what's wanted, and it's they're not sure of the way of playing, but that is how the performances have looked, by virtue of the fact we haven't sustained any quality play for more than maybe half an hour or so in games. So, I could still argue that the first 45 minutes down at Newport was probably as fluent as we've been all season. Granted, you could talk about the quality of the opposition as well, but yeah, I think that would be, as good as I've seen us for any sustained period without getting a goal. So that is the sort of, it's like I'm avoiding the question whether we need to be more direct or more possession based. But whichever way you go, you've just got to do it better. It sounds so simple. Just be better at it, And what was the supplementary bit after that? Sorry, what was the second part of the question?
Look, I think we would all agree that Martin has nudged the needle, to being a bit more direct, trying to cut out the number of short passes in our third of the pitch, and wants us to be physically stronger. He mentioned the lack of height when we played. Was it Salford? He specifically mentioned that. A lot of this recruitment was done before he arrived. Personally, I think the brothers and Roberto were expecting us to still be playing more of a possession-based style of game. So have we recruited to be able to do where Martin is looking to move us towards? And the example I use here, Bromley. So it's Bromley, and we get derogatory. Oh, they're all 6-foot shot putters and this and that. But your point, they all seem to know the jobs. And it's bloody hard to play against. And I thought on Saturday you had Jatta and Dennis, who, let's be honest, a lot of confidence. They've been playing well together. We're playing two up top. And I thought that the two centre halves, strong boys, played them very well. I thought the right back was really good. And they were combative, they were strong, they put the foot in. And sometimes we'll go, oh, that's not football. But you kind of, Gareth, there's already very much a Gareth Ainsworth stamp on that group of players. And I suspect he's had a lot more of a say in the recruitment than perhaps Martin has had in the players that had already been brought in before he arrived, and some of the players that have subsequently been brought in. I'm looking, this is unfair, but Tyrese Hall is not getting a lot of game time. Roberto Gagliardi, paraded him as, the next George Abbott on a par with Glenn Hoddle and all of this sort of thing. I think at the minute, it's a bit early for him, League Two, to be able to play in this hurly-burly world, so to speak. And that's probably why he's not getting many minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I say, recruitment for me is massive. You've got to bring players in that have got the ability to get you to where you want to go to. And again, we're still talking fairly early on in the season, but we're seeing more. We're seeing more. Things can change. It can take players longer than others to settle and feel part of it. You mentioned George Abbott there. He grew into the season. I think after 8 games last season, we were just beginning to notice, well, this lad looks a player.
Yeah.
He hadn't really took the league by storm or anything like that, but he was just finding his
playing.
feet and progressing.
He was playing, wasn't he?
Absolutely. And that is a valid point. And to me, points at, again, is it discrepancy between the data and the recruitment, and this is partly maybe why Roberto Gagliardi is no longer at the club, is that if he's his neck was on the block, if you like, his responsibility was identify player ID, then you bring 11 players in, and I think I think we'd all say now, Matt Dennis, brilliant, great recruitment, absolutely, and he was in before Martin came.
Yeah.
So it's not to say that, okay, well, recruitment needed to wait till Martin because he's been identified as a player. But you've got Ollie Norburn has sort of been in and out a little bit. I know partly that's down to fitness, and he's got a bit of pedigree about him as well. So that's it. But Maz Couillard, not seen much of him being brought in. Harry Griffiths, seen barely any of him. Barry Cotter's been in and out. Sonny Al Joffrey has been in more than out, but again, question marks. Obviously, Keller Roos has been playing. Jaden Luca, unfortunately, injured, but again, for the few games he was available for, was in and out. Okie dokie player. Keenan Bennett's not seen loads of him. And Tyrese Hall, as you mentioned, not in the starting lineup.
Yeah.
So a lot of them 11 that were brought in are not exactly cemented into the first team. Now, that's not just their fault. That comes down to a lot of things. That comes down to the team performances when you do play as well. But to me, it does say or suggest that the recruitment has not improved us when you look at individuals. And again, players can improve as the season goes on, can grow into it. That is no individual criticism of any of them. But when we're talking about recruitment as a whole, them 11 players, the fact that the manager who comes in, the head coach that comes in, doesn't really choose many of them to be absolute starters, maybe shows that he doesn't have an absolute faith in them as players, and maybe that's why there's this, or been this sort of apparent friction between Martin and the recruitment process so far this season. Of course, results don't aid that. If you're not winning week in, week out, then there's going to be questions everywhere. But I think the recruitment, again, big question mark against it in the summer. Time will tell, but massive recruitment against it. And as a head coach for Martin, if you don't have the players, you are limited to what you can actually do. So, look, Roberto Gagliardi's gone. So the fans that were looking at that's been addressed. So now all eyes, I'm afraid, turn to Martin, don't in the coaching team, not just Martin, but the coaching team, to say, right, well, this is what you've got. You know, this is what you've got. You might not be absolutely over the moon with it, but this is what you've got, and there's plenty of quality in there. You know, maybe we can question compared to last season, but either way, there's quality in there. There's certainly workman-like players in there. There's physicality in there. Now you've got to go about getting the best out of them, and you know it's a tough task. You know, because again, behind the scenes, if he's saying, "Look, all throughout the transfer window, I need more quality. I need more quality bringing in," and it hasn't been brought in, then to be fair to Martin, then that sort of gives him a bit of an out. He can say, well, look, I told you all the way through, and it wasn't addressed. It's not been addressed. So what can you expect me to do? If he hasn't been saying that behind the scenes over these last few weeks when the window was open, then, well, if he's okayed it and said, yeah, I think I've got players for the playoffs, I've got players for promotion, then he's got to earn his corn now and mould this team into a team that's going to climb the table.
AD Clark says, Martin seems to want Jatta and Dennis starting up top together. Need to look at a 4-4-2, in my opinion. JJ whipping balls in more from them from the wings. Steve Geldard, in the National League, we drew an analogy earlier, we were a big fish in a small pond. Now we're in League Two. We are still a big fish, but competing with clubs that will pay better wages. Martin Blaney, we have sold nearly all our quality players and it is showing. Derek Flowers, Martin said he likes his team to have plenty of the ball, but with the intent of getting the ball forward. So far, we've not seen this happening. Have we got the players to play with intent? But Chatwin, we need Brendan McCullum and Ben Stokes in as manager and assistant manager. Cricketing analogy there. Scott Taylor, the team doesn't look like we want the ball at all. We're completely direct and the majority of the time aren't winning the second balls. John Parnham, perhaps a combination of possession and going direct might work, but it will take some work. I think the phrase that Martin used when he came, John, was possession with purpose. That was the phrase. Evening all from Cyprus, says Andy Adcock. Knots are a bit like me now. I struggle at the weekends. I've paraphrased that. Donny Pie, if we've sold our quality players, then why can't we buy quality players? Something has been wrong with recruitment. ZO, Wrexham and Stockport use the momentum from the National League. We have dismantled for pound signs instead of building around the core squad. We have to rebuild on and off pitch again. This will take time. Personally, says Ian Cooksey, I will be surprised if Martin sees the season out. John Parnham, I think that Martin, given enough backup, will succeed eventually, but a lot of work will need to be done. Robert Greensmith, I hope Martin isn't as stubborn as some head coaches and managers. Why not give Jarvis a go? We need some quality. If he doesn't produce, then at least the fans will see why he's been frozen out. Certainly, I think there's quite a lot of people free Jarvis, shall we say, to paraphrase a campaign. Andy Adcock goes on. The omens were there in pre-season and recruitment has been questionable at best. We just haven't replaced like for like in terms of quality. AD Clark, recruitment is normally high risk. Unproven players with promise or players with an injury record. Only exception since the brothers took over is Didsey, who was a massive coup. And I think, to be fair, Adi, that was as much him coming to us as us going to him. He was desperate to come here. Jürgen Halligan mentions Iapenda. Yeah, I think he's done very well since he arrived into that sort of category of 11 players and those who have come in and are playing regular football. John Parnham, one thing that Martin Patterson will never be guilty of, and that's apathy. He rarely cares, and that can only be to the good. Richard Sharp, evening, Richard. Last season we were average, with an average manager, but with two top-class talents, Didsey and Abbott. This year we're average, with an average manager, but without those two top-class talents. We are where we should expect to be. I think it's not actually a bad post, actually. How can we progress, says Richard Terry, when we replace a Premier League player with a relegated League Two player? Gates down 1,000 every week, 20k lost, times 20 games, a lot of money, and certainly David McGoldrick's wages for this season more than covered. Plenty more coming in, lots and lots tonight. 1 point, Stell, ex-pro. I think we all's the wrong word. I think Stuart Maynard was here, attracted quite a lot of criticism, little bit bland, too soft, dour with press briefings and all the rest of it. Martin is very direct, very honest, calls it as he sees it. But as a pro, as an ex-pro, there's only so many times a manager or a head coach can call you out, isn't there? You know, you can't do it 35 games a season. It has to be reserved, you know, for inverted commas, particularly bad performances or whatever. How close to the line do you think Martin is going at the moment?
What, in terms of upsetting players?
Yeah.
I don't think that close. Not in terms of publicly. I obviously don't know what's being said behind closed doors. He obviously shows his frustrations. He's wears his heart on his sleeve, Martin. I don't think that's in doubt. But you're right. I mean, the modern day particular. I mean, it's always been the case. The top managers, and there is very little way of quantifying this other than results and success.
Yeah.
You know, the top managers manage to extract the most out of players, manage to get them an extra whatever percent you want to call it, but manage to get, no manager really has won out. Claudio Ranieri at Leicester, what he did was unbelievable because he didn't have the best group of players, and won the Premier League. That is incredible. But generally, the better players are at the top end, but they've got a manager that can extract 5% more out of them somehow. Put the wrong manager in, the wrong fit, the wrong personality, whatever it might be, and you get 5% less. And that can be a big difference in football, in professional sport. And the dual role nowadays, because of all the media scrutiny, because of, speaking to the fans, that manager's got to be able to motivate and drive and still have respect and discipline in the changing room, but also not old school ways. I don't think you can be nowadays because players don't respond to that. But then come in front of the cameras and speak to the fans and get them on side as well. And the most recent is obviously Luke Williams. That aligned, that word again, aligned, but that aligned with us having a successful season. He managed to get over the line where sort of Neil Ardley had failed previous to him, and Ian Birchnell. He managed to get them over the line. So whatever he had in the changing room, on the training ground, he had a way about him that got more out of the players. Yes, maybe a few extra players, a recruitment, better players, what have you. Obviously, he had Macaulay Langstaff to work with that the others didn't. But he obviously had that way. And then he came out and spoke and was loved by the fans. But he was loved by the fans because we were winning, and not, not because he was, a Jurgen Klopp type who came out and could have a laugh and a joke, but, show his serious side as well. He had a bit of that, but, and it's a dual role, so, but what I'm saying, a lot of it is what happens behind the dressing room door and on the training ground that people won't see, and only the players could honestly tell you, whether they're running through it. Now, I think, attitude and work rate and all that has not been in question. So I think they're obviously running and working and doing their best for Martin. Again, I think it's more decision making and just a little bit of cohesion that we're missing. But again, the perception of Martin will change throughout this season based on the results. And we've seen, you've already had somebody say, if we win the two next games, then people will be going, see, Martin's great. And if we lose the next two games, guaranteed people will be now looking at Martin because Gagliardi's gone. So he's the next one to look at now. So the scrutiny shifts onto Martin, and he will only be judged as to, from the outside in, whether he's a decent head coach based on results. That's all anybody is ever judged on. And, it doesn't necessarily change. We've won 3 out of the last 4. He's no different a coach now that we lost to Gillingham. He's exactly the same ability of coach, but results dictate perception of it. So, look, it's the way football always has been. It is the way it always will be. Has he alienated players? I don't see that. I don't see that in the players. What I would, again, maybe throw out there, are the players struggling to take on board what he wants them to do in certain situations? I don't know. But again, he'll be working and working and working. Training in football is basically repetition, repetition, repetition until you get something right, until you're flowing, until you're winning and your performances look good. And then it's about sort of almost ticking over, repeating, yes, making sure you're switched on, and then finding a way to keep you motivated week after week to do it, keeping people fit. But at the minute, we're not quite at that stage. We're not like an engine that just needs to tick over, make sure we keep going, just keep everything smooth. We've got to get there. We're a bit clunky at the minute. We need a bit of a service. We need a bit of a tinker with the engine because it's not right at the minute.
Very good analogy. I'm just waiting for like Ford Capris, Ford Fiestas or something to come up with the flop.
That is all I know all about cars to give you an engine analogy. But that's how I think it is at the minute. We are in need of a service. We need tinkering with at the minute. It's not right. And a perfect a sort of football example. I'd get back to football. I think Jody coming on for 30 minutes on the left-hand side on Saturday showed for me why I would get him back out on that left-hand side. He's so much more natural at it. I think he feels more comfortable at it, receiving the ball sort of facing the whole pitch rather than sometimes having to receive it back to goal or trying to find pockets of space. I think in 30 minutes he provided as much danger as he's probably provided in 6 or 7 games so far this season. So, I just think round pegs, round holes and all that sort of thing. When things need tinkering with, for me, Jody playing in one of them withdrawn positions hasn't quite worked. I would move him out to the left, maybe move Nick Cerula over to the other side. So you've got one inverted and one normal side, but needs must. Kellen Gordon's not going to be available for a while, and send best wishes to him for a speedy recovery because that did look nasty. But I just think, I think Jody at number 10. On paper, you think, yeah, great, go and get one of your most skillful players in a position where you can hurt. But I don't think it's worked. And that's not down to Jody. That's or not solely down to Jody. Again, it's down to the team to work out, right, how do we get the ball to him in the areas he wants it early enough so he can have space and hurt the opposition. And I just don't think we've done it. I don't think we've found a way of doing it. So for me, I'd be looking, right, Jody, you're the best player in this division potentially. On the left, go and show me what it is. You've got 2 centre forwards in there who can score goals, Jatta and Dennis. Go and provide for them. And you know what? If you get a chance, and like you did on Saturday in his 30 minutes, come inside, play a little give and go. You've got license to do that because the defenders will sit in the penalty area, the 6-yard box. When they see you on the ball, thinking you're going to cross it, go and play a little 1-2 and go and get some goals yourself as well. But you're there predominantly. Just go and get yourself a yard and whip some crosses in. Give us some service to these two threats that we've got in the box.
NCFC World said, I can't see how the owners have said that this is the largest budget. Martin Blaney, we are where we are due to the current squad. A lack of quality is showing. We've got more loans than anything this season, says NCFC World. Something about all the finances and recruitment just doesn't add up. Stephen Moore, 3-man centre midfielders is stifling creativity. There's no room for a number 10. Needs going back to the 2 centre mids with 2 10s. In the National League, says John Parr, there were about 8 teams at our level, but now there are about 14 or 15 good teams. Colin Metcalf's obviously been on the happy water from nowhere on his birthday. We will all feel better when we beat Forest in the 6th round of the FA Cup.
We absolutely will.
Beating Forest in a one-off game, I wouldn't have too much to worry about. Getting past the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th rounds might be a challenge, Colin. Attendance is being discussed by Jurgen and others. Fine leg. Personally, I don't think the direct approach suits Jatta's game. He needs more crosses from the flanks. Exactly, says Richard Elvin. That's why we need Jody on the wing. Remember the record number of assists. Andy Easom is looking forward to a fans forum. Good luck if that happens. Derek Flowers. Excuse me, I'd ask the question, are the players really good enough at the end of the day? Steve Geldard, I agree with Stell, with the director of football having now left, that puts more pressure on Martin Patterson. And lots more agreements with Stell from Richard Elvian. John Parnham, I too agree with Stell. It's no use crying over spilt milk. We have what we have. Now it's all about bringing the squad up to standard. Adrian Dexter, we are still hungover from the heady days of our last season in the National League. We can't expect to win every game. We are going to get beaten. But I still think we are doing fine. Crawley Saturday, Stel. Back on home soil. Now, I think we've done pretty well at home this season. Won a couple, drawn one, only lost the one against Salford, who were a decent team. You know, it's easy to forget that. I think at the end of last season, have we gone something like 4 or 5 straight defeats at home?
Yeah, I think that's right. Was it 3 straight defeats, wasn't it? And then it carried over to this season.
Yeah.
With a home defeat.
We had the one win against MK Dons, and we'd lost a few before that. So I think, you know, Fortress Madeleine home form, if you've not got home form, you're never going to achieve a lot. So I think, to be fair to Martin, he does seem to have so far addressed home form when it tailed away pretty significantly last season. What are you expecting Saturday? Crawley went up, came back down, gone back to their old manager. Historically, they were one of the very few teams that played football on a possession-based way, the way we played it for a while.
Yep. Scott Lindsay back in charge there after he went to MK, didn't he? For a bit, didn't happen for him there. But yeah, I mean, he's gone back to Crawley, place he knows, knows well. Got them out of this division 2 seasons ago. So it's going to be a tough game, and they've won their last 2, haven't they? They've had a poor start to the season, but picked up 6 points from their last 2 games. So again, they'll just have a bit of confidence. So difficult game. They've got some decent players down there. Obviously, Bajrami is playing for them at the minute in the heart of the midfield, I believe. So, former Notts connection.
Bajrami versus Norburn. That could be a bit tasty.
There could be some tackles in there, or Robertson, whoever plays in there. But
yeah,
absolutely. But either way, Notts at home, I think you're right. I think Martin has done well in terms of home games. Yes, we had that disappointing one at Salford, start of the season, or home to Salford. But since then, we've picked up points. Again, one decent win against Shrewsbury in there, but battling, scrappy sort of wins. But a win's a win, and that's exactly what I want Saturday, and that's exactly what I'm expecting Saturday. That's a scrappy game necessarily, but a scrapping sort of performance. I expect we'll be, we are more robust this season. We were prettier last season. We were easier on the eye, but some people called that boring and sideways and backwards. And I wouldn't disagree. At times, it was patient in the extreme in the build up. So I don't think there's any passing for passing's sake, or he certainly doesn't want that. But we are certainly more robust, more dynamic, stronger, more physical. Now that can lead to being less pleasing on the eye if the game goes that way, a la Saturday at Priestfield. So I'm expecting a tough game. Hopefully the pitch looks a bit better. It's had a couple of weeks with a bit of rain and sun and a bit of everything in between since the last game, since the fungal infection. But yeah, it'll be a tough game against a team that's won 2 out of the last 2. You know, they're in a little bit of form with a manager who's done course and distance. You say he's got them out of this division before via the playoffs. And obviously, well, I say there's a couple of players here that will know, but there's Nick Cerula that he'll know. Obviously, Kellen Gordon won't be involved, but yeah, there's, it'll be a tough game. We say that every week, aren't we? We're never not going to say that, but I think it's just it's a shame for Notts that they've won the last 2 games, because otherwise they'd had a poor start. But I think now they might just be coming here with a little bit more belief than maybe they would have done.
Yes, you and Adam will be there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, me and Adam. He's having a few days in Spain as a break after Saturday. He jetted off to Spain, but he'll be back for Saturday. Yeah.
Early season break, crikey, he ain't been nowhere, mind you. To be fair, we have been to Barrow, Newport, and Gillingham, so we have clocked a few miles up. To be fair, how was the Mel Maison 5-star Hilton in Medway, or wherever it was you stayed on BBC expenses?
Yeah, it was spelt Premier Inn, but yeah. It was lovely. Yes, it was fine. Yeah, we didn't get down there till late on Friday night, because Adam was on the radio till 7 o'clock. But I mean, God, I say, I always feel for the fans, because even on Friday night we were behind, multiple police stops and things on the M25, and the same again coming back. I walked in my house just about 10:05 Saturday night. So, like I say, credit to all the fans that pay the money, hard-earned money, a lot of money at times, to go and watch the team, because, like I say, when you get served up what you watched on Saturday, you do question it, I'm certain, but like I say, we love it. It's the fact that we don't know what's coming this Saturday that keeps us all going and keeps us believing. And like I say, whether the glass is half full or half empty, you've got to keep following your team, haven't you?
Yeah, well, I went down with Chloe and Chloe's granddad, and Richard Stanton joined us after his train spotting. Yeah, it was nice to be down the side, because we're normally in that Meccano set of a stand where you just pray it don't rain whilst you get wet.
That'd be, like I say, you'd have all been soaked if you had been, because it tipped it down, didn't it, a couple of times.
But look, as you say, look, it's nothing that 3 points on Saturday will not solve. Thank you, one and all, for tonight. Even before your days, this, Stel. So the night with Raddy Avramovic will be at the Big Shed and the Trent Navigation. Anyone over 50, it's compulsory. You have to attend. Friday, October the 24th, Raddy is coming back with other selected special guests to be announced from that 1980s top flight team. Raddy will be guest of honour at the home game the following day, Cambridge United. 6 o'clock doors open. We will be. You mentioned beating Forest. Somebody did. Well, we've got the video of when we beat Forest 3-2. Who remembers Ian McCulloch being sent off? Trevor Christie turning on a Manel cover. We've got lots of videos from the Ipswich game, the goal, and winning at Aston Villa on the opening day of the season. So we're putting a good night on. This will be a popular night. It's a tenner. Tickets will be on sale from 6 o'clock tomorrow evening. Dive in early. Evelyn Grezza has bought a table for 10 up front. There you go. Martin Kelk is sponsoring the night. We're very grateful to Martin for that. So watch out on the socials tomorrow. 6 o'clock, you will be able to buy your tickets a tenner. Other than that, let's see you all on Saturday, 3 o'clock. Crawley, it seems strange to do it Saturday, 3 o'clock, but we've not had too many games displaced this season. I hope everyone's paid their 28 quid to go and watch Crew. Crikey. And Swindon tickets are on priority sale as well. There we go for the ticket promotion. Stel, thank you as always for everything.
Yeah, pleasure. Evening. Yeah, no problem. Have a good week, everyone.
Yes, and good night to everyone, to Bud Chatwin, AD Clark, Derek Flowers. Yes, we should also mention, I've mentioned it on various vlogs that I've done, there was a great appreciation from both sets of fans in the 35th minute on Saturday at Gillingham for Kim Wolster. Notts super fan. The family are some of the most committed Notts fans that I know, and I know plenty. Kim sadly passed away on Friday evening. As and when there are funeral arrangements confirmed, I know that the family would like to see as many Notts fans as possible, and they're going to need a pretty big place to hold that service, I am sure, because I know so many people would want to show their appreciation for Kim, and it's going to be a strange old world having seen Kim at just about every away game for the last countless number of years. Sadly, Kim Walster passed away on Friday evening. Thank you, one and all, and I look forward to seeing you all next week. Cheers for now. Bye-bye.
Bye.